I decided to make a BCLA and MKZA combo video. This BCLA is the same pretty much as the MKZA. The only difference being second gear drum is larger diameter and taller and takes different clutches and steels, and some of the external parts are different, but other than that everything is the same. So it's only going to be the MKZA being assembled, but the difference in the parts that there are of the two units, I will put that in the video. And on the Patreon side, it's going to have all the differences and measurements and all that. So that's how we're going to do this unit. Main valve body PRP HM-12. Actually need to get the end plugs. And we're ready. So spring in the back of the valve. Sleeve. I would recommend that you put the end plug kit from Sonex in these. You're going to want to make sure they do have that little notch in them. And you're going to want to make sure that the end plug is pulled back up against the outside of the casting, or you could have apply problems. There's the original. This valve hollow end out spring. End plug, you'll make sure that that spring is centered up in the bore. Hollow end out. Spring. Retainer. And get in there. Hollow end out on the valve. Now these valves are got all the same size ring lands, so you're going to want to make sure that you get the right valve in the right spot, because it'll go in, but they are different, and the springs are different also, even though they look very similar. Spring and retainer. Hollow end of the valve out again. Spring. And retainer. Hollow end of the valve up. Spring. Got small end plug. Now if you get the whole kit from Sonex, this kit right here, it's going to come with one large, one medium, and 3 smalls. That's not going to be enough to do all of the valves. That'll be enough to do the primary ones. You're going to want to deal with your lockup valves and your CPC valves primarily, but I would recommend that you do it for all of them. hollow end of the valve up, spring. This one does not have an O-ring on it, and large ones do not have an O-ring, but you are going to want to make sure they fit fairly snug, and the ones that don't have an O-ring will fit more snug than the others. So you want to be careful about how far in you go, because you may not be able to get the retainer back up against the wall out here. So just go in just enough to get the retainer in. Manual valve. The retainer is going to go in from this side. The check valve is going to go the valve down, spring up, and there's a 213 check ball there and there. You got 312s that hold that in. 2 dowel pins that go in the case on our separator plate. So now this is going to fall out. So let me take it back out and put this back over. And you want to put your gears in, and ID mark's going to face up because in the case it faces down. So put that in there, and you can get a filler gauge in here, and you can measure your tip clearance. Right there. And this is a 4/1000, so it won't go in there. And you typically want no more than about 4/1000 to 6/1000. So we should be okay there. And this side over here is going to be a little bit more because you can't line it up properly. That's right at 6 right there. And you can check your end clearance, face clearance, whatever you want to call it. Typically here you're going to want no more than about 1/1000 and a half. So somewhere between a 1/2 and 2/1000 max is what you can have there. Servo body PRP number 8, and hollow end of the valve up, spring, retainer, make sure that's centered up. Put an O-ring on your reverse servo. the O-rings on your accumulators. This one here, spring is 163 long, 565 outside diameter, 100 thousandths coil diameter. This one here, outer spring, 1 inch 900, outer diameter 715, coil diameter of 94, inner spring 1 inch 230, 460, 92. This one here, outer spring, 1 inch 893, 647, 86, inner one, 1 inch 330, 408 thousandths, and 80 thousandths. And then we have the retainer and two 10mm bolts. And they look like that. We have a tube that is 8 inches, 600 and, come on, 66 thousandths long. We have brown solenoid. Make sure you put your solenoids back where they came out of. A 10mm that holds that in. And we need to turn that. Detent needs to line up right there. And we have a black solenoid. It goes on the bottom. And we have brown solenoid. It goes on top. Black solenoid goes on bottom. Brown solenoid goes on top. 10mm for that. And we have detent, sleeve, and our lock. This part right here has to go on the body. I believe I put that properly. It may flip over, but I'm forgetting right at the moment, so I'm not going to bend my lock over. I am going to go ahead and tighten it though, just in case I am right. Don't forget to bend your lock over when you make sure this is the proper direction. We got 2 dowel pins. There's our separator plate and 3 bolts that are 2" 9/68, and I'm just going to go there. Well, I may be wrong about that, so we'll wait till we get it on the case. 7 bolts that are 2.373. 1 bolt that is 1" 200. Regulator body. This one is off of the other one. This ringland was worn, but they are the same. This one has a different number, but all the parts are the same. PRP 10-2. The original is PRP 12. Sonics makes a valve that you can put in here that gives you better cooler lube. Transgo sells you a kit that's got a spring for the check valve, and then you drill this passage out right here. I've done all that stuff. Really what the cure is for the torque converters. Now, don't get me wrong, you can put that in there if you want to. It's not bad for it or anything. But the real cure is to put a auxiliary cooler and a radiator in them. You can put those valves in and still burn up the torque converter. So just keep that in mind. Inner, middle, outer spring. This here has a slot in it. The bolt has to line up in there. And it's got a little tip that rides in that groove. Do not put an impact on this thing. Do not put a wrench on this thing until you're damn sure that that bolt is all the way down. You will ruin it. So I just push it in by hand. Make sure it lines up. Get the bolt all the way down. Once it's all the way down, you can tighten it down. Hollow end up on this accumulator, or check valve is what they call it. Spring, and then retainer. Make sure it's in the center. Once you are done, hollow end of the valve up. Spring. This is a medium end plug, so if you bought a kit, it's not going to have everything that you need in it. You're going to need one medium. You can buy them individually. Alright, and retainer. Make sure it's all the way up. Accumulator. Change your O-ring. And let me go ahead and lube this one up. Get that in there. And we'll measure the springs. Alright, the little one. 1" 158. 561. 98. Outer spring. 1" 905. 723. 94. 1" 238. 470 and 90. You have this retainer, retaining plate, I guess you would call it, and this piece here, and I think I got this backwards. Let me look here what we got going on here. Alright, what's this way? Two 10mm bolts look like that. And that detent was on upside down, so if you put yours on that way, go ahead and flip it over. Alright, we have two tubes that are 7 inches, 798 thousandths. Two dowel pins again. Here's our separator plate. And we have one bolt that is 1'8". 4 bolts that are 2" 370. 3 bolts that are 2" 770. Alrighty, let me get the bell housing and we'll put the valve body on. Not always, but sometimes you get a new one. And it's going to go on there. Put your bolt in, tighten it down, bend your locking tab up to keep it locked in. Alright, I need to get some other things documented, and then we'll put the valve body onto the case. Alright, I don't know if that recorded or not. This side faces out on your front seal, or your linkage seal. Lube it up, and then it just goes a little bit past flush. You can usually even just push it in by hand. Your axle seal, give it a little bit of lube. And there again, just a little bit past flush. Your front bearing, make sure it's all the way back. Sonex sells a shim that you can put on there. You put on your torque converter, and it will hold that bearing back. I just stake them in place. Let's get a center punch and stick it in. If you want to buy that shim, more power to you. Center punch decided to crap out on me. Alright, on your front seal, there is usually an arrow, not always, but if the arrow is not there, you want to make sure, well, these don't even have lines on them. I don't feel very fuzzy about this seal. You want to make sure that your lines are facing the same direction. Alright, I'm going to have to get me another seal. If this has the lines on it, I don't know if you can make those out. And it even has an arrow on it. So make sure that your arrows point in the same direction and your lines are pointing the same direction as your old seal, assuming nobody's touched it. Because if it's different, it will leak. Your drain plug has a washer on it, 3/8 Allen. 3/8 Allen, 3/8 square. You have oil slinger and bearing with the step up. You have the oil slinger and it sits right there, and your race for your diff. Usually this just falls in there. There we go. This one and this one's going to have to be pressed in. Here's our magnet. Goes in just like so. And a collar with 2 O-rings. Lube that up. Line up your slots. Oh, and then just put the old one back in. I gotta go get the one out of the other case, but that's how it goes. Put your O-rings on there, lube all this up. You have 2 line-up tabs. Make sure they're lined up. On your groove on here, this side faces down. And this tab goes in that groove. The locking tab will sit on the back of that. Usually you get a new one. You know, have dowel pin and dowel pin separator plate. Driven gear, ID marked down, pivot pin, drive gear. And you can go ahead and lube that up a little bit. You lube up your pump pocket also. Put your valve body down. Only 3 12mm in here on your valve body anyway. 1.540. Alright, you got your check valve and spring, goes in that way. Check ball 213 thousandths there and there. Separator plate and 2 dowel pins. And 2 dowel pins here. And separator plate. O-ring on the stator. You have to leave that loose for the momentary. Actually, we're going to leave it off for right now. We put our servo body on. Get our bolts in here. And then we will measure them. Okay. Alright, go ahead and put your diff in so we can put our shield in. Alright, let's start right here. 1" 200. 2" 367, Same. Should be the same. And this one should be the same. Same. Most of these are the same. This one, did we do this one? I don't think so. It's the same. Then out here is 2-inch 980. That's the same. That's the same. And that's the same. O-ring on your stator and your stop. And usually it's got a mark where it's been wearing into this thing. I just flip it over. Alright, regulator body. Get our bolts on there, and then we'll measure them. Alright, let me get my tubes so we can stick those in there and put our bolt in. Let's see. This one goes here. And this one goes here. Alright, our bolt that goes on that is 3-inch 485. The shortest one is 1-inch 800. Next, the longer ones are 2-inch 375, and they go there, there, there. That's longer. That's longer. And here. And then the longest, the next to the longest one is 2-inch 770. One goes here. One goes here. And one goes in the corner. Alright. Alright, put your linkage in and okay, put your linkage in, make sure this piece here. Yep, get it out the way. Gets in there. Put your detent around and loop your spring into it. Alright, we have side gear with washer. Side gear with a washer. spider gears with washers. Cross pin. And a roll pin. And then you're going to want to stake that in place. Alright, we have our transfer ring gear. Make sure this side is facing up. We have our diff ring gear. Make sure the deep side is facing down. .14mm bolts. Alright, and I'll get you the torque specs for that. First gear, there's an O-ring. It goes on here. O-ring that goes on here. Actually, this is third gear. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is third gear. You have a return spring. and balance piston. I would recommend that you replace your pistons. And then short end of the taper up on our snap ring, opening between these little nubs. Alright, what's happening here is these pistons are fitting a little too tight. So what I'm going to suggest, if you get the same situation that I got, is that you put these things in the freezer and let them sit overnight. And then in the morning, the first thing we do is come and we set these in these drums, and they should fit pretty good. I don't know, that one there is not fitting at all, really. So let me see if I got another piston. It is close enough to this. Yeah, just like so. We have our cushion ring. Alternate steels and clutches up. Step up on our pressure plate. And snap ring. Alright, this side is the first clutch. And we have another O-ring down there in the bottom. Another O-ring here. And to get those pistons in, you may need to take your lip seal tool over there, and as you're coming down, work it in. We got our piston again, we got the return spring, and we have the balance piston. And short end of the taper up on our snap ring again. Looks like so. Cushion ring again. Alternate steels and clutches up. Step up on our pressure plate again, and snap ring. Second clutch, we have an O-ring down there, and an O-ring here. turn spring, our balance piston, and short end up on our snap ring in between the nubs. Cushion ring. Okay, the steels between the BCLA and the MKZA are different. So let me go see if I got some steels and we'll be back. Okay, so the original stack up in here, the bottom steel was 157 thousandths. Alternated clutches and steels up, and the steels were 78 thousandths, and apparently the clutches were thinner than what's come in this kit. So what's come in this kit is, I believe, 78 thousandths. .76. So, and then the top pressure plate was 110. Well, I ended up come out way too tight. So what I ended up having to do was substitute 2 of these steels with 60 thousandth steels, and my clearance came out okay. So just keep in mind, you may have to juggle around if you get different clutches. So keep that in mind. Let me get the pictures done on this. We got 3 O-rings here, 2 O-rings here, 2 Z-lock sealing rings here. I gotta get pictures of all this. Alright, we've got 3 O-rings on here. Two O-rings back here. And 2 Z-lock rings on here. Alright, we have a bearing, gear, bearing, race, which is selective, and we need to lube that up. And second gear goes on here, and our snap ring, short end of the taper up on there. Just like so. And on this side I have a bearing, gear. Let me go ahead and lube up my O-rings. gear. Bearing. And our race. And our drum. Our collar, bearing, and race. Our collar, bearing, and bearing. Gear and bearing. Bearing, gear with this side facing the bearing, and this has to be pressed on. Our bearing, this side up, this has to be pressed on. And there's a washer, you want the dish down. And then our nut, 34 millimeter, and it's left-handed. Alright, we have an O-ring here. This is a 5th clutch. And we have an O-ring here. You check your flapper valve. Put a little bit of fluid in there and make sure it holds it. Then when you release it, make sure it comes through the other side. I have only ever seen one that was bad. We ball this up. What? The return spring, the retainer, and you look at the end of your snap ring, there'll be a taper to it. You want the short end up. You don't want it down like that. You want it up. And put the opening away from this little notch right here. We got the cushion ring. Alternate steels and clutches. No, I do not soak my clutches. If you feel the need to soak your clutches, by all means soak them. I've never seen a difference doing it and not doing it. Pressure plate with the step up. And snap ring. Fifth clutch. Check your flapper valve, O-ring, and O-ring. Return spring, retainer, short end of the taper up and away from the opening. Alright, cushion ring. Alternate steels and clutches up. Snap ring. Okay, they want you to assemble this entire thing with bearings and everything on it. I'm going to go ahead and take my O-rings off, make this easier. You know, if you haven't changed anything, it shouldn't have changed. But some people don't know that you're supposed to, or there is a check for the clearance on the drum and your race. Actually, it goes this way. So put your race on here, put your drum on, and you're going to check the clearance. It's easier with the clutches out. You're going to check the clearance between the hub and your drum. And it's easier to have one that's already bent on the end of it. Let's go ahead and take our clutches out, because you got to get, and it's a little bit difficult to do, you got to get between here and here to check that thing. 1 to 4 thousandths. So showing this on camera, it's going to be a bit difficult. And that's 4 thousandths right there, and it's nice and tight. I can't even pull it out. Okay, your bearing and race, your gear, and bearing and race. Put your O-rings on here. Your drum's going to go on. You're going to spline that all together. On the back side here is a collar, bearing, race, gear, and bearing. Up here we got 4 sealing rings. They are scarf cut. There is a snap ring that holds this bearing on if you need to take this off. If it's bad, you're buying the whole thing anyway, because it's going to have ruined the shaft. And these sealing rings go together. Come on, get off of there. And somebody's already been in here and they've been changed to Z-locks. So either way, whatever you have, Z-locks go together just like so. Scarf cut is cut at an angle, and just make sure that you get the 2 angles together like this, not one on. It's shaped like that, and then the other one will be shaped like that. We'll make sure and get those laid together, not one sitting on top like so. They will not go together properly, and they will not seal properly. Alright, O-rings here, like we talked about. On these Z-lock rings especially, you need to be careful about how far out you spread these things. You just want to go just enough to get these things on there, as you can break the back of them and never know it. The other rings, the scarf cut ones, you can be a little bit more rough with them You still want to be careful about how far out you bend them. You can deform them in such a way that they don't actually work very well anymore. They're a lot more forgiving than these things are. Alright, short end of the taper up again. Yeah, trying to do this where you can't actually see it very well is not an easy thing to do. Alright. There, bearing. Bearing. Gear. Bearing. Race with the lip down. Should have lubed up them O-rings. And put our clutches back in. Like I said, if you haven't changed any hard parts, the adjustment between that shim and this drum should not have changed. Bearing, collar, gear, and bearing. On the counter shaft, you have this gear, cone faces up. You don't really need to take this apart, but if you do, this is how it goes together. You have this gear, cone faces up. We have this gear, cone faces up. We have the spacer. We have this gear, the cone faces down. And this has to be pressed on. So let me go do that. You have the half moon retainers. We have this retainer or collar recess facing down. Make sure them keys are inside of the recess. And then we have this snap ring that holds it on. While you got your tubes out, it's a good idea. I need my tape. Get you some cellophane tape. You want just enough to go around your tube one time without overlapping. I think that's going to be a little short. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a little short. It's almost perfect. Alright. Get that on there and then take your tube and stick it in your shaft. If it does not push that tape off, your bushing is bad. And this one's really good because it's really tight. Alright. if your bushing is bad. Brico made this tool. It's a Honda bushing tool, part number 28999, if you can find it anywhere. I found mine on eBay, and this will do almost any Honda that you need to do. And up on here it'll tell you what bushings you need to order in order to do it. This will take them out and put them in at the correct depth that they need to be. Put this off to the side. Once you got everything the way it needs to be, you're going to want to take your O-ring and put it in here first. And if it doesn't fit snug in the bore, if it's a little loose, you're just going to take it and tweak it a little bit and get it to where it fits in the bore. Just like so. Alright, on your tubes, you can put the O-ring on here, you lube it up, and then you want to make sure that it goes all the way flush. Once you got that all situated, you can grease that up. These little tabs have to fit in them slots right there. Oh, wrong one. These little tabs have to fit in those slots. And these tabs have to fit in those slots. Keep the opening of your snap ring away from the opening of those notches there, and you want to make damn sure this goes into the groove, because if it's not all the way in that groove, the first time that fluid hits it, it's going to blow it out of there. Yeah, I think these are a little bit too big. Alright, there we go. We have two O-rings that are going to go. Gasket's going to go on the case first, and then the two feed tubes that we have, these O-rings go on there. The bearing for your linkage goes in here. You do not need to take that out. This bearing sometimes will just fall out. Sometimes it has to be pressed in a little bit. You want to put it in this side first, especially if it's fitting snug. and then pick the proper gasket for what you have. Some have these large shoulder bolts that go here. They're all 10 millimeters, but these three here are larger. There is a version out there that's not an MKZA that does not have these, and it takes a different gasket. So make sure you put the proper gasket on the proper unit. On your reverse idler, you have this pin. It's got two O-rings on it. One end has a notch and this end is longer. It's going to go up inside of here and have to line up with that right there, just like so. Our bearing goes on here. On the MKZA, there's no difference between either side. It's the same. On the BCLA, it's got a ID mark on one side that faces up. So if you have a gear that has an ID mark on it, because this fits several different transmissions, so just keep in mind, if you have an ID mark, it faces up. If you have no ID mark, it does not matter which direction the gear goes. And when you put this in, the gear has to be up inside this spot right here, and you're gonna have to hold that back while you put the case halves down. Then once you get that in there, you can push the gear back over, and you can put the retainer in. Faces this way, and 10 millimeter holds that in. We'll talk about that more when we get there. Alright, let's talk about the case parts. As you can see that, you can lube up your axle seal. Depending on what model you have is which one you're going to use. Here's your adjustment shims going to go in first. Your thrust washer, oil slinger, whatever you want to call it. And then the diff race going to have to be pressed in there. All this stuff does not need to be taken out. You can leave it in there. Here's the snap ring that needs to be released to get the transmission apart. There is a snap ring that holds this bearing in. Yep, get down in there. Alright, then you're going to put the bearing in with the groove down. Make sure you got the right one in the right spot. Yep. Okay, and we got this snap ring. Holds this bearing in. Snap ring grooves are going to face down again. You're going to have to press that in. Then down inside of here, how well you can see that, another snap ring. And then our bearing has to be pressed in there, and you can press it in until it snaps in the snap ring groove. So let me get those pressed in, and then we'll go on to the next part. You have your idler gear assembly. There is a snap ring here that you can take it off the shaft. it did not want to come off that shaft even after heating it up, so I wasn't going to try to force the situation. I don't really need it off there. Let's slide that in there. Let's see if we can do this on camera. There's 2 half-moon keys that go on here. And see if we can get these to stay. Go in there just like so. You have a retainer, the cup side faces in, has to go around those half-moon keys. That's what keeps them in there. You will notice that there is a taper to your snap ring. You want the short end of the taper up towards you. And it's probably going to be difficult to do on the camera. And just put your snap ring on there, and that's all there is to that. Make sure your filters, your O-ring is on your filter. Lube that up. The long bolt goes here, short bolt goes there. Long one is 4-inch 733. Short one is 4-inch 340. Okay, make sure your linkage is in park. The hard part here is loading all 3 of these shafts at one time. I'm going to see if I can do it by myself. Usually I get help. It's real easy to break sealing rings sticking this thing in, so I'm going to see how it goes, but I think I'm going to have to wait and get some help. Alright, went surprisingly easier than I thought it was going to. I still would get help if you absolutely can. Pick your proper case gasket. Make sure your 3 dowel pins are in there. One over here. Put your reverse idler in your case half. Drop your case half on. We have bearing, gear, face hub and the bearing. You have your fork and your slider facing this way. Our lock sitting on top. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but you do need to stake that nut in place. Same way with these other two nuts that we're going to do in a minute. Bend your locking tab over. And your gear on top. Okay, for our case bolts, the three shortest ones, they are 1 inch 9/30. One goes there. Two go here. This bracket goes on that. Then I guess we'll just go around. Be the easiest way to do it. This bracket, this bolt, 3 inch 9/90. This bracket, 2 inch 7/15. Same. No, we already did that one. This one's the same. This one goes down inside where the solenoids are. 3 inch 8/88. Same. And I believe all these are the same to right there. This one here is the longest, 4.290. And this should be the same as those others, 3 inch 8/88. And that's the same. This is the same as the other long bolt. There's two. Then the rest of these should be 2 inch 7/15. Move your reverse idler back over, lube up your O-ring, make sure your bearing is on there. 10mm holds that in right there. Do not put it over here, that's in cover bolt. on your linkage, you have this spring. You have a roll pin right there. That spring, let's see, we're going to be going this way, so it needs to be on this side. This is selective, this piece. If you haven't changed anything, it shouldn't change anything. There is a measurement for it. On the Patreon side, I'll give it to you. There's really no need to mess with checking it. There's a lock here and our 10mm bolt. The lock is going to sit just like so. Bend your locking tab over. You have our gear, goes on here. We have our park, goes on here. Both washers, the dish goes down. And let's see, I believe this one's left hand. No, this one's right hand. And this one's left hand. Tighten those down, stake them in place. We have a tube. And the tube goes with this tip up. Now we put our park pole in. This side goes down. Spring goes on. Goes in that hole. And it goes on the front side there. Holds that back, and our stop goes right there. Pick the proper gasket for your cover. Dowel pan, feed pipe, we need 3 O-rings. So we need one here, let me find another one, and one there. Don't forget to change out your lever seal. Go ahead and lube it all up. It faces that way. Oh, one thing we do need to check, and I forgot to tell you about it. You won't be able to hold this shaft and turn the others. If that does not happen, then you got something pinched somewhere. So make sure that that happens. Okay, you have 3 bolts that are like this. One is longer than the others, and it goes, or 2 are longer than the others. They go there, and then the short one goes up here. Now, the shortest bolt goes over here. And the shortest go up here. These are held on by the bolts for the neutral safety switch, so don't put those in. And okay, yes, we'll go ahead and measure them. We'll start here, and then we'll come down and work our way around. 1 inch 975, 1 inch 600, 1 inch 975, 1 inch 593, 1 inch 970, 1 inch 607, 1 inch 200, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. So I was wrong about that. Oh well. 1 inch 418, 1 inch 740, and this should be the same. Yep. Here I got 2 tins. Hold this on. Put your linkage in neutral, and then find something. You can use a feeler gauge. That's the same width as that. I don't think I'm in neutral. There we go. Once you get that lined up, you can tighten down your neutral switch. $10mm holds the wire down. Alright, our cover, we have 3 bolts. They look like that. 2 of them are the same. And they are 1" 145. And the other one is 2" 3/28. Morning. Alright, put your gasket on. Lube up your O-ring. $10mm, 1" 592. Okay, green, orange, red, blue, yellow. And another thing to keep in mind is that the black go with black and the brown go with the brown. So if you got that mixed up, you know you got something wrong. Okay. We got 3 bolts that are 9/70. And keep in mind that some of these models have the bracket from here bolts onto here, and also the filler tube may go into here and may bolt to it also. 1" 590. Go there. Something wrong, something wrong. $1" 395. And same. 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 Alright, that one don't go there. That one goes there. This short one, 1" 205, goes up here. And 1" 970. Let's see if our cooler line is going to be in the way. It will not. So let's take that back off. Got a washer on our banjo bolt. Alright, make sure your gasket matches up with the way it needs to go on both sides. And you need to face that way. Make sure your filters are poking in. Four tubes on this one down here, 2 tubes up here, and then our oiling tube goes right there, and an O-ring goes each tube, feed tube. This solenoid goes up here, and there's 6 bolts here, 4 bolts here. They are all the same. 1" 200. This one goes down here. And let's see, we've got a bracket. This bracket goes down here. This bracket goes up here. Okay, pressure sensor with washer. They're different colors for different ones, so make sure you put them back where they came out of. Pressure sensor, the washer. Banjo bolt and 2 washers. This sits up against the case. Bracket and 12mm bolt. Fill plug. Long speed sensor. Change your O-ring, lube it up. $10mm. Short speed sensor. Alright, most of your torque converters come with an O-ring, but if it doesn't, you get one in the kit. That's what that's for. Turn our shaft to make sure we're not making any noise. And this one should be good to go. We'll see you on the next one. We're done with this one. Okay, we got in gear with a washer. And in gear with the washer, they're both the same. Side gear, pinion gear, whatever you want to call it, and washer, one on each side. Well, it's being real snot, so need this hold the line up over here. And our roll pin go in there. Okay, recess your pin and then stake it in place. The deep recess faces down. It's only difference of about, I think it was about 50 thousandths. 14 millimeter left-handed threads. The diff braces and washers and shims are the same for the MKZA as the BCLA. Okay, that's it for the diff. On the BCLA second clutch drum, it is the 2003 to 2005 is the same. The 2006 to 2007 is different. Let's see if I can get this camera to quit bouncing around. It's taller. The earlier drum is 1.914 tall. The later BCLA is 1.958 tall. The outside diameter is 5.135 on the MKZA. It's 5.245 on the BCLA 06 to 07. The piston is 0.550 tall on the MKZA. It's 0.500 tall on this one. The balance piston is 190 thousandths tall on the MKZA, 0.215 on the BCLA. The bottom steel, now they claim that some of these have wavy steels. I don't recall having ever seen any wavy steels in these. So the way that they say this is supposed to be set up is a flat steel on the bottom and then wavy steels in between up to the pressure plate. Like I said, I've only ever seen flat steels, so take that for whatever the book says is what I'm giving you. The bottom steel on the MKZA is 157 thousandths thick and 4.985 on the outside diameter. On this one, it's 87 thousandths thick and it's 5.073 on the outside. Then your regular steels here, like I said, you have the bottom steel supposed to be flat. It's a 78 thousandths steel on the MKZA. It's 66 thousandths on the BCLA, and I think that these are actually, yeah, these are thicker. These are 78 thousandths, so they're same diameter or same thickness as the regular steels on the BCLA, but the book says they're supposed to be 66 thousandths. So I'm telling you what I have. I'm telling you what the book says it's supposed to have. The gear itself is 1.960 tall, 43 teeth, 1 ID groove. On the MKZA is 2 inches, 40 thousandths, 43 teeth, no ID mark on here for the BCLA. So you have the O-ring that goes on here. O-ring goes on here just like the other one. Return spring, balance piston, short end of the taper up, opening in between the nubs there. Oh, wrong snap ring. And cushion ring. Like I said, the book says flat steel and a clutch, then wavy steels up. These are all flat, so take that for what it's worth. I am missing a clutch, yes I know. Ain't no big deal, this is not going in a vehicle, but there would be a clutch there. And your snap ring. And the bearings were the same. You got a bearing, flat bearing, cage bearing, gear. Actually we can, yeah, let's go ahead and put it on here. Bearing, and then our selective race. And put our drum on. And then our snap ring, short end of the taper up. So, moral of the story here is because the book says it's supposed to be something does not mean that is the way reality is. People that made those books are just as flawed as you are, and sometimes everything that they put in there is not correct. So all you can go by is what you actually run across. So I'll keep an eye out. I don't get these units in very often, but I'll keep an eye out and see if them steels are wavy on any of them. But like I said, I've never seen a wavy steel in any of these drums, and they claim that on all these drums. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, external parts are the same as far as solenoids go and speed sensors. The fill plug's the same. Vent cap. Over here we have an O-ring and a fill tube. You'd want to lube up that O-ring on there. We have this bolt for right here, 10 millimeter where it goes into the solenoid cover, and our return filter assembly, and 12 millimeter holds that in right there. 12 millimeter, it holds it in right here. Two 10 millimeters that hold that in right there. Let's see, we have the banjo bolt and two washers for over here. You have a banjo bolt and two washers that go on here. Now this one, instead of having that little area that sat up against the bell housing, it actually has a 12 millimeter bolt that holds that in. And then our pressure sensors are different. Well, one of them does anyway. So a pressure sensor and washer here, and pressure sensor and washer that goes here. And that's the only outside differences that there are between the two units. Alright, that's it for both units, and we'll catch you on the next rebuild.